Welcome back to my channel. Uh, now I'll talk about the accounting equation. Accounting equation. Okay. What is the accounting equation? Accounting equation says assets equals liability plus equity. So this is the genesis or the basis of all accounting. Okay, this is where we start from, right? So let's say assets. What are assets? Liabilities. What are liabilities? Equity. Okay. Equity. What is equity? Okay. So assets, this is what you own. Okay. For instance, if you have a car, if you have a laptop, if you have land, a house, these are assets. Okay. What you own. Liabilities. This is what you owe others. Okay. This is what you owe others. For example, if you have a bank overdraft, you owe your banker. So that is a liability. If you took a personal loan, a long-term loan, personal loan, that is also what? That is also a liability. Um, of other loans like mortgages. Okay? If you have a mortgage, that is also a what? That is also a loan. Okay. And then we have equity. What is equity? Equity, in other ways, it is called what? Net worth. So this is what you own. Okay. If let's say you have assets worth $10,000 and you have liability worth $5,000. What is your equity or net worth? Your net worth will be your assets minus your what? Your liabilities. Okay? So this is what this is the definition of what? Net worth. So this is we call it the residual interest, okay, of your what? Of your wealth, or what is left after you have subtracted your what? Um, your liabilities. If you have, let's say, you have more liabilities than assets, your net worth or your equity will be negative. For instance, here, if we have liability with $15,000, find that your equity is what? Is minus. So according to this equation, if you say assets equals liability plus equity. So if we add equity plus or liability plus equity, we get 10,000. And there as well is what? 10,000. So we can move around this formula. This is the base of all our accounting, right? So for instance, if you want to find liability, what do? So you just you make liability in mathematics, we call it substitute the formula. You just say, okay, you move equity to come this side, the positive will come negative. So it will be liability equals assets minus equity. And the same with equity, equity equals assets minus liabilities, right? So I have these transactions. I want to categorize these transactions, whether they are assets, whether they are liabilities, or what? Equity. Okay. So, for instance, if the owner invests 2,000 in cash, what will happen? Okay. So the amount is 2,000. So what will happen to our assets? We have cash in assets, 2,000. Let me just format this. Okay. We have cash, 2,000. And then the other part, you also have what? Equity. Okay. So this is what we call the double entry. Okay, this is what we call double entry accounting. So one transaction affects two or more, we call them accounts. Right? I'll come to the double entry principle later on in my videos. Please subscribe if you want to learn more about that. Right? So, and here we say you buy office furniture for 500,000 cash. Okay, so what will happen to our assets? So it will be minus 400,000. It means we'll reduce, okay, we'll reduce the assets by 400,000. That is cash. Oh, sorry, we bought on credit. So we buy office furniture, 500,000 cash. Okay, so yeah, it will be cash minus 500,000. Okay, and at the same time, because we are buying furniture, the furniture was what? Increase. So furniture is what? Is our asset. So the net effect there, it will be what? It will be zero. Okay? So the net effect there, it will be what? It will be zero. Okay? Yeah. So that's what will happen there under what? Under assets. It will be plus and minus, and then the result will be what? Zero. Then number two, we purchased goods or inventory on credit. So what will happen? We increase inventory, and inventory or stock, that is our asset. So you increase by how much? 400,000. Okay. And we purchased on credit. We did not pay by cash. So what will happen is liability also what? Also increase by the same amount, 400,000. Okay. Then we come to sale of goods for 200,000 cash. Sale of goods for 200,000 cash. So when you sell goods, what happens? So it means the asset will increase by 200,000. The asset will increase by 200,000 because we have sold, okay, by cash. Okay, we have sold by cash. Okay. So by cash to for 20,000. Okay. What will happen to the other part, to the credit side? The credit side will go to this account we call revenue. It will be revenue, which is not part of this equation. Revenue 200,000. Okay, 20,000. Okay, but they're saying they sold goods for this one, which cost 120,000. So the difference between 200,000 and 120,000, the difference of 80,000, will have an increase or will have an impact of equity. So we call it equity. It will come under equity. 80,000. Okay. All right. So what else? We pay supplier. We pay supplier 100,000 of the date. So what will happen? If you pay a supplier, it means our assets will decrease. That is, we're paying by cash. Our assets will decrease by 100,000. And then at the same time, the debt, the liability will decrease by the same amount, 100,000. Okay? And then we took a bank loan of 1 million. So if you take a loan, what will happen? It means that loan will be deposited into the bank account. So there will be an increase in the assets by 1 million. And at the same time, there will be an increase in liability of 1 million. Okay. Then buy a motor vehicle for 1.2 million cash. So what will happen? If you buy by cash, it means we will decrease cash by 1.2 million. At the same time, we will increase assets, that is motor vehicle, by how much? 1.2 million. Like that. So it will just be a movement within the what? The assets. Then we pay a rent expense, 50,000 cash. Okay. So if you pay a rent expense, what will happen? Okay. What will happen to this one? The expense will say we are buying what? We have rent expense. Okay. If you pay by cash, it means we will decrease the assets by how much? By 50,000. Okay. And then we will debit what? We will debit a rent. Okay. A rent by how much? 50,000. Okay. By 50,000. Okay. So because these, okay, let me finish first. We receive 150,000 for services rendered. Okay. So for services rendered, if we receive 150,000, it means our assets, that is our cash, will increase. Our cash will increase. So our cash is our asset. And then the other one will be revenue, service revenue. Okay. That one will also increase by how much? 150,000. All right. So the owner withdraws 100,000 cash for personal use. Okay, so if the owner withdraws 100,000 for personal use, what will happen is first we will decrease the cash by how much? By 100,000. Okay, we'll decrease the cash by 100,000. At the same time, the capital is being reduced, the equity is being reduced by how much? By 100,000. Okay, by 100,000. So, here we pay rent expense 50,000 cash. Okay, we are saying we decrease the asset. Okay, we decrease the asset by 50,000. At the same time, what are we going to debit? We debit what? We debit equity by the same amount. Okay, so this one I'll explain later in the other in the other videos on the double entry and what is the equity, what are retained earnings. Okay, and the same here, we should have that is 200,000, 100,000. Okay, and paid for in debt, that's okay. And for the rent, how much is the rent? For that one, also debit. Invest, this one is credit. Okay, so at the end of the day, we should expect total assets or total liabilities. Total liabilities should be the same. If you add them to total equity, should be the same as total what? Um, total assets. All right. So if you want to know more about the if you need a comprehensive course on the bookkeeping and accounting, I have a course. I have a course which is on Udemy. so you learn more about these. Okay, so here I was just explaining on how you can categorize your transactions, whether they are assets, liabilities, and equity. Okay, and please subscribe for more, because I'll be sharing some of the concepts like the double entry. What is double entry? All those. So if you subscribe and like my video, I'll really appreciate. And if you want to buy my course on Udemy, it's a $22 course with over 25 hours of videos on that platform, right? So I'll leave the link for the course in the comment section. Thank you.